All right, everybody, it's time for another one of my world famous tier lists where I utilize my God-given gift for stereotyping for your entertainment. And today, we're going to tackle a topic that I've been meaning to talk about for a while that I have a lot of very strong feelings about, as you'll see. Tell you what, maybe in my top 3 topics that I feel strongly about. Number 1, fast food. Number 2, soda. Number 3, car brands, I think. So that's what we're going to talk about. We'll do the tier list of car brands today. I feel like this one may rustle some jimmies. So if you're not prepared to have your jimmies rustled, maybe now's the time to just press pause on this video. Come back another time when your butt is not sore. If you're ready to have your jimmies rustled, you're in the right place. And also, I wanted to mention something new that I'm doing, which is a YouTube coaching program. If you're an individual creator or you're a company, really anybody that wants to grow on YouTube, this is for you. Basically, this is a way to download everything that I have learned about YouTube over the past 7 years from my brain into yours. There's a pretty common set of challenges that pretty much everybody runs into on YouTube. I've run into pretty much all of them. And with this coaching program, I can help you get past those a lot faster than I did figuring it out on my own. For example, in my opinion, the single most important thing for any channel is figuring out the right niche for your content. Like, what should you focus on and how do you talk about it? For example, for me on this channel, once I found that, I went from getting, a couple hundred views a video to tens of thousands of views per video, literally almost overnight. You can see it right here. And also the right approach to things like titles and thumbnails and how to structure your videos to keep people's attention. All that stuff that took me years to figure out on my own through trial and error. I just want to help you speed run all of that. I am super excited about this, and I'm going to be putting a lot of time and energy into it over the course of the year. And if you want to find out more about it, you can just hit the link in the description of this video. Let's start here with Subaru, because I live in the Pacific Northwest, which is the home of Subaru. I mean, it's not actually the home of Subaru. Subaru is a Japanese brand. We've got some S tiers in the Subaru. No. There's 2 problems with Subarus. Number 1 is that everyone who owns a Subaru is one of 2 things. Number 1 is some sort of hippie like this. I'm not sure why, but Subarus are extremely popular with lesbians. And I have no problem with lesbians by any means. But it's very popular with these sort of just like the most stereotypical Democrats you could possibly imagine, right? Like the people who listen to NPR and have that "no human being is illegal" sign in their front yard, and their car is covered in progressive bumper stickers. That's sort of segment number 1 of Subaru owners. Yeah, the coexist stickers. Yeah. Segment number 2 of Subaru owners, when we're talking about the sportier stuff like the WRX and stuff like that, is the kind of people. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I hate these people. The kind of people, these nerdy dudes that are always engineers that are into all-wheel drive and manual transmissions. Oh my fucking God. They will not shut the fuck up about manual transmissions and all-wheel drive. Subarus are nerd cars. God, yes, they're nerd cars. Yeah, the rally bros, they're insufferable. Insufferable. Listen, what is the percentage of manual transmissions that are sold? It's 3% of cars or something are sold with manual transmissions. I worked with an engineer that had a manual WRX. Of course you did. Of course you did. It's the kind of people that even though they live in Seattle where it gets a quarter inch of snow once a year, I could never imagine driving anything but a 4-wheel drive. For what? What do you need 4-wheel drive for? Ugh. I'm sorry. I've never driven a Subaru, by the way. I've driven in them a couple times, so I've never driven one, but just based purely on their owners. As you know, I don't judge anything on the quality of the actual thing itself, right? When I'm judging a band's music, I don't listen to their music. I don't care about their music. I only care about how annoying their fans are. It has nothing to do with whether their music is good. And same with Subarus. They could be great cars. I don't know. I don't need to know. I don't want to know. Easily one of the most irritating fandoms. So I'm putting Subaru in the F. That's where I'm putting it. Over here, most of us use manual, but it's about to change. As always, Europe is 5 to 20 years behind the trends. So hopefully one of these days, you guys will get your automatic transmissions. And then you'll wonder, why did I fuck around with that manual for so long? Let's talk about Honda, okay? Let's talk about Honda. I have a real soft spot for Honda because when I think about Honda, I think about back in the good old days of the 90s. That's what I think about. Back in the day, back in the glory days of the tuner car era, I was never like super into this, but I thought it was cool. I sort of like remember this being around, like the Civic and the CRX and the Prelude back in the day. Thoughts and Civics, exactly. The CRX is like the sort of definitive tuner car of the 90s because they were really small and light. Something like this. This is like the definitive tuner car back then. I always thought those were cool back then. I wouldn't necessarily drive one, but most importantly, yes, the Thoughts and Civics. That's the most important part. I remember back in the day, I would get Import Tuner magazine just for the ladies. Here's the difference between you and me. You see women as sex objects. Me, I see them as human beings. That's the difference between you and me. But in all seriousness, I mean, I think Honda did so much for their brand back in the day, just by sort of supporting tuner culture and shit back in the day. I mean, it made me love Honda as a brand back then, and I still do. Honda Civic drivers are either Giga Chads or 3-incher beta cucks. There's absolutely no in between. That is true. That is true. My first thought was, oh, S tier. However, I thought about it a little bit more, and as great as Honda's tuner heritage is, they weren't the absolute best when it comes to tuner stuff. Definitely amazing and great, but not the pinnacle of tuner culture. So I am going to put them on the A tier because, they've got the CR-V and the Honda Pilot and the, Passport and all these kind of not so cool ones. The real pinnacle of 90s tuner culture was, in fact, Acura, which, as you probably know, is just rebadged Hondas. The sort of level 1 tuner kids would get a Honda Civic, but the higher level kids would get the Integra, which is sort of the fancy, the alphas would get the Integras. And so I have been in love with Integras ever since then, and I've been in love with Acura in general ever since then because they were the pinnacle of tuner culture, because you always imagine to yourself, what if I got a sweet 1990 Integra and I pulled up to the function and that, maybe then one of these hot import tuner bitches would see my car and get in it with me, and then maybe I could live out my dreams of being a cool kid in 1993. Maybe it could happen. And you know what? Since then, I have owned 5 Acuras because, no joke, I have owned 5 Acuras because of how much I loved Acura back then, right? Because of all the equity they built back in the 90s. I've owned 5 of them. I've had 4 TSXs and an RDX. That's how much I love Acura. And so for that reason, I'll put them at the peak, because if you want that import model, Tammy Tran from San Jose, you got to have the Acura. So I'm putting it on the S tier. I'm also going to put Lexus up there on the S tier as well. Lexus, without a doubt, is the pinnacle of Japanese luxury cars. There's no question about it. It's a fact. All I ever wanted to do was be an upper middle class Chinese dad. This is like the peak of like upper middle class Chinese dad car, is like back then, like the mid 2000s RX 350, the egg shaped one. You remember these? Love them. I love them. That's all I ever wanted. All I ever wanted to be was that, or, the sort of like milfy soccer mom also could drive one of these, right? She could pull up to the function in this, and you'd be like, oh man, the neighbor kid's mom, kind of hot, right? Like the kind of like rich cougar that her husband makes enough money that she doesn't have to work, and the kids are old enough that they go to school. So all she does is just like go to the gym all day. So she's like 42, but like has just like jacked arms, just like shredded, totally jacked, because all she does is go to the gym while her husband's at work. Yeah, she has a consignment shop that's open 2 days a week. I feel like it's that. So it's either like the cool tuner car or it's like the hot cougar down the street. One or the other. Either way, Lexus, clearly S tier. I'll tell you another one that I have a real problem with. Let's talk about Audi. Maybe in the last like 10 years or something like that, I feel like Audi became like the luxury car of choice for, white hipsters, basically. I don't know why. It's the kind of people that like turn up their nose at driving a Lexus, but for whatever reason, they think that, driving an Audi is great and cool. Yeah, Audi is for EDM enjoyers. Audi is a fancy VW. That's exactly what it is. Audi is for fish fans. Yeah, I feel like Audi is like the car equivalent of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. That's what I think it is, right? Like objectively, Ben and Jerry's ice cream is good, but there's just like I just can't bring myself to eat it because it's just so douchey. Can't do it. Fuck German cars. Are so fucking complicated and expensive as hell to fix. Listen, I don't know shit about how cars work on a mechanical level, and I don't care. All I'm here to do is stereotype the owners. And I don't like the Audi people. It's always insufferable, artsy white people. It's like, if someone went to art school and then somehow managed to get a job that pays well enough to afford a luxury car, these are the type of people that get an Audi. I would certainly rather have an Audi than a Subaru, but it's a lot of the same kind of people that talk about all-wheel drive and manual and blah, 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 blah. But at least Audis look kind of cool, so I'm going to put it on the C tier. Not the absolute worst, but I got a bone to pick with the Audi drivers. Trust fund car owner, very close to BMW drivers. Yeah, I agree with that. There's also the Audi mod community who are very broy. Ugh, that sounds awful. I have a little bit of a surprising one here. You guys might be surprised by this, okay? A brand you probably haven't thought about in a while, which is Oldsmobile. I don't even know if Oldsmobile still exists. I feel like it doesn't. I'm not sure. Here comes the McDonald's trash. That's right. That's right. You know where I'm headed with this. Now listen, would you ever choose to buy an Oldsmobile? Absolutely not. Oldsmobile drivers use the shit out of the ashtrays. Yes, that's exactly right. But when I think about an Oldsmobile, like the Oldsmobile Alero, I think about this, right? You think about, here we go, this girl. She might drive the Oldsmobile Alero. She still has her like 2004 Oldsmobile Alero, yeah, with the Hello Kitty steering wheel cover and one hubcap. I gotta say, from that perspective, it's either her or a grandma. Those are the only two people that drive Oldsmobiles. You put it this way. If the girl drives up in an Oldsmobile, you know she fucks. Smells like cigarettes, yeah, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Burn marks all over the passenger ceiling, McDonald's trash in the back seat. She's probably still in contact with her ex-boyfriend. He'll come over in the middle of the night and start a scene and the cops will get called, but you'll still go for it. She probably stole the keys from her stepdad. Now you're getting it. But you know what? If she pulls up in the Oldsmobile, you're going to go, you know what? I have a feeling that I'm going to pay a very high price for this ride, but I'm going to go on this ride anyway. That's what I think about the Oldsmobile. So for that reason, I'm going to put Oldsmobile on the S tier for that reason, only because, this is based not on the quality of the car. It's based on the quality of the owner. And listen, the Oldsmobile girl, it's going to be a fun ride. Now you're going to pay the price. You're going to feel bad the next day. You're going to pay the price. That's right. But the juice is worth the squeeze with an Olds girl. That's right. How about Jeep? Let's talk about that. Because I feel like when I think about Jeep, I have similar feelings, but I'm a little bit conflicted. Because I think about this. Like, optimistically, in my head, when I think about the Jeep owner, imagine that it's this girl pulling up in the Jeep. Jeep owners are just the equivalent of woo girls and horse girls. Yes, exactly. That's what I think of in my head. It's probably an old white guy with a very good job who owns the Jeep. That's probably true. But in my head, I want it to be this, right? I want this to be the Jeep owner, but I'm not sure that that's true. I feel like the actual Jeep owner is some dork that wants to tell you about, how good it is at off-roading or some shit like that. I don't know. It's one or the other, right? In my head, it's this. It's the country mommy. In reality, I feel like it's sort of the lower tier person that for whatever reason, they just bought the Jeep because it's cheap. They've had it since like 2008 and it has all these electrical problems and like one of the mirrors is broken. It's like people have Jeeps. They'll have like a Jeep Cherokee from 2008 that barely works and they keep telling you how they're going to replace it. They never actually do. I don't know. I just feel like people who drive Jeeps don't really have their shit together. So unfortunately, my dream scenario of it being the country mommy, I think is probably more fiction than reality. They're just kind of like sad, I think, but not nearly as annoying as Subaru or Audi owners. So I'll put it in the B tier. That's what I think. Belongs in the B tier. Tell you a frustrating brand to me. A very frustrating brand to me. I wasn't even sure if this still existed. Infiniti. You remember back in the mid 2000s. They had was it the G20 in like the early 2000s, I think. This thing was kind of cool for a minute, right? I liked it. Kind of looked like a 3 Series a little bit. I liked it, but they really fell off since then. I feel like, for anybody who doesn't know, Infiniti is like the rebadged Nissan. So Acura is Honda's luxury brand that only exists in America. It doesn't exist in Japan. Lexus is Toyota's luxury brand that, again, only exists in America. And Infiniti is Nissan's luxury brand that only exists in America. So this was like the coolest car they ever made back in 2000. But the problem is, God, this shit's so ugly now. Like, who the fuck wants this? It's hideous, right? It's hideous. Why would you pay luxury car prices for an Infiniti, when it looks like a Kia? And the whole point of buying a luxury car is you want to impress people with your car, right? But nobody's going to be impressed if you have an Infiniti, right? Nobody. I feel like they should just shut down Infiniti. I think it's a failed brand. The only cool car they had was 20 years ago. They should all go to airport rental fleets. I just feel like people who buy Infinitis are probably like, I don't know, barely upper middle class, like older Gen Xers or early boomers that just sort of like, oh, this is a nice car, right? But like don't really know what they want and just like pay too much for like, kind of a crappy car. So I'll put it in the B tier. At least it's not insufferable like Audi and Subaru. So that's what I think. I'm going to put it in the B tier. Now, how about Ford? How about that? Are you old enough to remember the Ford versus Chevy rivalry? Like, that was a thing. Like, when I was in high school and elementary school, people cared about that. It was like you had to choose, oh, you like Fords or you like Chevys? I feel like now, like, it's completely irrelevant and nobody gives a shit about either one of them. When I think of Ford, it used to be like the Ford Escort, right? Back in the day. That was the first car I ever had, was a Ford Escort back in the day. But now I'm pretty sure the only thing Ford actually sells is trucks. Here's what I'm talking about. This is what I call a real man's car. Right here. Right here. The Ford F-350. No cucks allowed. Yeah, the Brodozer. I have bad news. If your husband does not drive this car, you may indeed have a wife, not a husband. If you don't drive a Ford F-350, you are a low testosterone, soy guzzling cuck. It's just a fact. Good for hauling farm. Are you crazy? You're going to pay $80,000 for a truck and haul shit around in it? You can't fucking use the truck to haul shit. You'll scratch it. Are you out of your mind? What's wrong with you? Jesus Christ. Get that lawnmower away from my truck. You're going to scratch it. You got to buy this thing when you're 19 years old. You just joined the Marine Corps and you get your signing bonus. You buy this thing at 7% interest on a 10-year loan. That's what you do. A 10-year loan on this $90,000 truck that you only use to drive to McDonald's. That's the trick. So that's what I think of for Ford. And because of that, this is a man's car. No pussy cuck shit here. No Prius, no Tesla. A goddamn internal combustion Ford F-350 rolling coal with the Hollywood Undead sticker on the back window. Anybody that gets in my way, I'm going to scream the F slur at you as I peel out and pass you going the wrong way on the other side of the road. That's what I think. A real American vehicle. That's right. So that's what I think. Would I ever buy a Ford? Fuck no. I only like Japanese luxury sedans. But you know what? I got more respect for Ford owners than I do Audi or Subaru owners, that's for sure. So I'm going to put it up here on the A tier. That's what I think. I got time for one more. So let's talk about another one. We got to touch on this. The most irritating car brand to me by far. Volkswagen is like everything that drives me absolutely fucking insane about car owners. So it used to be back in the day, the Volkswagen Jetta or Passat was like, a hot normie party girl car, like in like 99 or something like that. It'd be like the hot college senior, sorority girl would have like a Jetta. And it was cool back then. But then somehow or another, Volkswagens became the domain of insufferable nerds who are into things like manual transmissions and all-wheel drive and all this shit. And it's just like, fuck off, man. Like, nobody gives a shit about your fucking four-wheel drive manual transmission, diesel fucking TDI. Nobody gives a shit. I hate nerds, people. That's what it comes down to. I hate nerds. Yeah, German engineering is superior, except for the part where they had to pay like billions of dollars in fines because they falsified their emissions records. I'm surprised anybody still buys Volkswagen after that. Listen, I don't mind if they lie to me about their emissions records. That's fine with me. My problem is all these goddamn nerds who will not shut up about their four-wheel drive, biodiesel, GTI. Fuck off. Get out of here. I'm going to stuff you in your locker and take your lunch money. If I see you around here again, you go in the F tier with the fucking Subaru nerds. That's what I think. And that does it for this edition of the car brand tier list. Maybe I'll do another one. If you want to hear what I have to say about girls who drive a Chevy Cavalier and listen to Hollywood Undead, tune into part 2. Don't miss out on that one. Trust me.